pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor. Board of Commissioners, public meeting Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. The time is now 7:43. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, notice of this meeting was published in December 1st, 2016 issues of the Nutley Sun and the Herald News, and the December 2nd, 2016 issue of the Star Ledger. A copy of this notice has been posted on the Nutley Town Hall Bulletin Board, and a copy is on file in the Municipal Clerk's office. Commissioner Rogers. Here. Commissioner Tucci.
Here.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco.
Here.
Mayor Scarpelli.
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Minutes, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor, we have regular Board of Commissioner meeting minutes for November 8th, 2017. I need a motion, please.
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco.
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli.
Aye.
And that's it for minutes, Mayor.
Reports, Commissioner Tucci.
Yes, I have a shade tree report for the month of November 2017.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes, I have a code enforcement report for the month of November 17.
Bills, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor, bill list for Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. Public Affairs, $107,931.62. Revenue and Finance, $12,057,448.24. Public Safety, $69,536.98. Public Works, $399,671.43. Parks and Public Property, $672,443.58. Total payroll, $907,818.60. Grand total, $14,214,850.45.
Move the bills.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco.
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli.
Aye. Public comment on agenda items only. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor. All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 3 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board should determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody like to address the Board of Commissioners on agenda items only? Seeing none, could I have a motion to close the public comment?
Make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Commissioner announcements? I just would like to thank all the commissioners and their departments for all their help in having our annual tree lighting ceremony. It was a great event, and I appreciate all the help. So, thank you. Also like to thank the Franklin Reformed Church for donating the tree. Ordinance introductions. Commissioner Petracco.
Ordinance number 3376, an ordinance to amend the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey. I move that this ordinance be passed to second reading and advertised in the Nutley Sun, together with the notice required by law, and further consideration of said ordinance for final passage by the Board of Commissioners to be held on, is that January 11th?
January 2nd.
Oh, I'm sorry, January 2nd.
Yes.
I move the ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Commissioner Rogers?
Ordinance number 3377, an ordinance to amend the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey. I move that this ordinance be passed to a second reading and advertised in the Nutley Sun, together with the notice required by law, and that further consideration of said ordinance for final passage by the Board of Commissioners to be held at its second reading on January 2nd, 2018. I move that ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Commissioner Rogers, continue with your resolution.
Okay, resolution number 271-17 is a resolution for an agreement made between Northwest Essex Community Healthcare Network, a nonprofit corporation, having its principal place of business 570 Belleville Avenue, Belleville, New Jersey, in the Township of Nutley. Whereas the agency has agreed and functioned in the past to provide behavioral health care for the residents of Nutley and will continue to provide said services in accordance with the terms and conditions of this agreement. Whereas Nutley has agreed to make annual grants of funds for the partial support and maintenance of said services rendered by this agency to Nutley residents. It is hereby agreed that the agency will furnish and provide behavioral health care services to residents of Nutley by professionally qualified personnel and will cooperate with other Nutley community programs which deal with the provision said of services. For services rendered by the agency and described heretofore, during said contractual period of January 1, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, Nutley agrees to pay the agency a grant in the amount of $20,000. Payments on account of the obligation set forth above shall be made annually to the agency no later than December 31st, 2018 in the amount of $20,000 for the year. The agency will provide a therapist once a week to see veterans in need of therapy at the Department of Public Affairs Health located at 149 Chestnut Street, Nutley, New Jersey. Whereas funds will be available from account number 801-118-200 in the amount of $20,000 and will be certified by the Chief Financial Officer, said certification being subject to adoption of the 2018 budget. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the mayor and the township clerk be and therefore are hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Northwest Essex Community Healthcare Network. Be it further resolved that the parties hereto have caused these presents to be executed by the respective mayor, officer, and attested by their respective municipal clerk or secretary and their official seal be affixed hereto. Before I move this motion, this is going to be the individual who is going to be in our department, who's going to provide services not only to combat veterans, but also any individual, especially first responders, who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. This is no additional funds to the township taxpayers. I had actually reduced the payment to Nutley Family Service Bureau. I first reduced $65,000 in total, and then we decided that they needed help on their thrift shop and their food bank program, so I restored $25,000 to them. But I got a net savings for the taxpayers of about $45,000. Now, this is a much-needed service. This individual coming is also going to be visiting not only our veterans throughout town, but they're going to be visiting senior citizens, disabled people. I've got to tell you, I learned it when I ran for office in 2012 and went door to door. We have a growing senior population. We have senior citizens who are locked in their homes. They're not getting out. They're not communicating with people. We have a program set up now, and I saw some of my staff doing it today, shopping for these senior citizens on the computer in our office via telephone. Very lonely people, very depressed people. The economy is crushing them. It's pretty bad out there. But we can only do the best we could with what we have. So with the help of my colleagues, and they know all their departments have been involved in transporting people and visiting these seniors. This is the best we could do right now. I wish I could do more, but I want to thank all of the commissioners for supporting this because it's a critical need. And I now move this motion.
I second it.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
I abstain.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
I just like to add to Commissioner Rogers as well and say that, you know, the pulse of the senior citizens, the veterans, I think that we're all taking a hard look at our departments of what are must needs and what we really need. And I really appreciate you stepping up, Steve, and having the courage to add this, because I think just having the store and seeing all these people come in, there really is a need for it. So thank you. I vote aye.
Thank you.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Commissioner Tucci?
Yes. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that Shade Tree Committee meetings will be held on the following dates for the year 2018. January 11, 2018, March 8th, April 5th, June 7th, September 13th, and November 8th, 2018. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Whereas a resolution was adopted on December 6, 2016, awarding a contract to C. Walter Searle Agency, 410 Franklin Avenue, Nutley, New Jersey, for accident safety review and consulting. And whereas the agreement entered into between C. Walter Searle Agency and the Township of Nutley on January 1, 2017, was for a period of 1 year with the option to be extended for an additional year, not to exceed 2 years in total. And whereas funds are available from 8-01-516-245, not to exceed $10,000 for the year, and have been certified by the Chief Financial Officer, said certification being attached to this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Nutley renew the contract with C. Walter Searle Insurance Agency, 410 Franklin Avenue, Nutley, New Jersey, pursuant to the previously signed agreement. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
I have to abstain only because I do business with Bobby Searle, and I have to say he does a fine job.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Whereas the Township of Nutley has a need to acquire Vision Care Network Plan services on behalf of Township employees, and whereas such services may be acquired as a non-fair and open contract pursuant to the provisions of NJSA 19:44A-20.4 or 20.5 as appropriate, and whereas Premier Vision Care, 990 Cedar Bridge Avenue, Suite B7-130, Brick, New Jersey, submitted a proposal indicating that they will provide the services for the sum of $1,836, and whereas the term of this contract is for a 1-year period commencing on January 1, 2018, and continuing through December 31st, 2018, with the option to be extended for 1 year, and whereas funds will be available from account 8-01-526-245, and have been certified by the Chief Financial Officer. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, authorize the Commissioner of Parks and Public Property to enter into a contract with Premier Vision Care. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Evans?
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas in accordance with NJAC 1727.3.2, each public agency of the Township of Nutley shall designate an individual to serve as a public agency compliance officer to liaise with the Department of Treasury, the Division of Public Contracts, Equal Employment Opportunity in the Township. Now therefore be resolved that the Mayor and the Board of Commissioners hereby reappoints Lenny Pettis, Municipal Clerk, as the Township's compliance officer for the calendar year 2018. Be it further resolved, a copy of this resolution will be forwarded to the Department of Treasury, as indicated in the resolution. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Whereas all government units must prepare and submit a corrective action plan as part of the annual audit process in accordance with OMB Circular A-133 and 9801. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners that the attached corrective action plan for the audit year 2016 is hereby approved. A copy of the plan shall be kept on file with the municipal clerk, and also a copy will be sent to the Division of Local Governmental Services. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, that the Treasurer is hereby authorized to refund overpayments of tax charges totaling $19,660.26 individually for Block 4500-9 for $6,040.90, for 3900-1.01 individual amounts for $1,692 for 2016, and $9,417.26 for 17, and for Block 5600, Lot 37, $2,510 for a grand total of $19,660.26. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
My next resolution is the reappointment of Millennial Strategies as our grant writing service for reappointment for the year 2018, beginning January 1st. It's a non-fair and open contract pursuant to the provisions of NJSA 1944A and 20.05. Overall, it's critical that we continue to have a grant writing capability for someone who's out there searching for grants for the township. We benefit greatly by having this service. However, given in light of where we are financially, we've negotiated with Millennium a $10,000 reduction in their contract from $40,000 down to $30,000 for the 12-month period beginning in 2018, which is subject to the adoption of our budget for the year 2018. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
I vote aye, but I'd just like to add a comment as well. I know the Board of Commissioners know this, but I think Millennial is worth their weight in gold. The work that went into getting a police grant for $500,000 over the next 4 years, which we were one of 4 in the state to achieve that. And usually those grants go into the inner cities. So for Nutley to get a grant like that, I have to really commend Millennial's effort. Really a job well done.
And
I
what was
vote
really
aye.
nice is that when I raised the issue of our financial challenges, they were very willing to work with us.
That's
to
great.
reduce their fees. So same service for less money.
Fantastic. I vote aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
My last resolution is pursuant to New Jersey Statute 5443.3, which provides that war veterans who are honorably discharged from active service in a time of war in any branch of the armed services who have been declared 100% permanently disabled shall be exempt from property taxes on their dwelling. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley that Dominic Sienna be granted a full exemption from payment of property taxes from November 28, 2017, and all subsequent years on the property identified as Block 9200, Lot 20, also known as 34 Newark Avenue. Be it further resolved that he's entitled to a refund of $712.80 for 2017 property taxes. So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Petracco?
Thank you. I'm just going to consolidate I'll read these by title. Resolution number 261-17, appointment of Emergency Management Council, Local Emergency Planning Council, Environmental Commission. This is from January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. There's a bunch of names on it. I'm sure everybody has a packet, so I'll just move it like that to save some time. I move resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Resolution 262-17, whereas the Township of Nutley has determined the property described on Schedule A attached hereto and incorporated hereon has been abandoned by its owners and titled as junk, cleared through the Division of Motor Vehicle. This is things that we've confiscated, and we're looking to go out to actually sell them off. So this is Resolution 262-17. I move resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Resolution 269-17, whereas the Township of Nutley has the need to acquire towing services, and whereas the municipal clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise for sealed bids for towing, and whereas specifications are available in the purchasing department, Town Hall, 1 Kennedy Drive, Nutley, whereas bids are to be received by Wednesday, December 27, 2017, by 3 p.m. and addressed to the municipal clerk, Township of Nutley, 3rd floor, Commission Chambers, Nutley, New Jersey, which time they will be publicly opened and read. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Township Clerk be and she is hereby authorized to advertise for sealed bids for towing services. I move resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
And this Resolution 275-17, this is our Safe and Secure grant that we apply for, total cost of $222,875.80. $2,278.94. This is Resolution 275-17, which we've been doing since I've been here. I move the resolution.
Before I vote, I want to emphasize the point that the commissioner here to my left has worked very, very hard to maintain the security of this community. Needless to say, there's a lot around us, very close to us, that's very troubling. Problem with the terrorist activity around the country. Never say it can't happen here. It could. We have a police department that does a real tremendous job. And Commissioner, you thanked me before, but I want to thank you too. And look, this isn't just patting each other on the back. This is serious business. When we think about the security of our community and the safety of the citizens, one of the greatest defenses is a very visible, effective police department. So I just hope that you continue to stay the course. I just want to thank you for that, and I vote yes.
I appreciate that, Steve.
Commissioner Rogers, you said yes?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that they, in accordance with the provisions of RS 48-4-58, the following transfers of appropriations in the 2017 budget be and the same are hereby authorized and approved. It's salary and fire salary and wage $50,000 from account number 7-01 314-100 to fire O&E $50,000. 7-01-314-200. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Resolution 263-17, the 2018 Board of Commissioners Public Meeting Schedule, with the dates listed below. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Resolution 264-17, which is the 2000 holiday schedule, as listed below. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the following newspapers are hereby designated as the official newspaper for advertising for the Township of Nutley for the year of 2018. The Nutley Sun, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that Joseph Scarpelli and Kathy Rempachewski be appointed as representatives of the Community Development Block Grant Committee for the term of January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. And move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas raffle applications have been received from the following organization: St. Mary's Church, license number 56-17, pull tab instant raffle, to be held every Tuesday in 2018, except for March 27th and December 25th, 2018. St. Mary's Church, license number 57-17, bingo, every Tuesday in 2018, except for March 27th and December 25th, 2018. Whereas applications have been reviewed and approved by the municipal clerk and the police department, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the aforementioned licenses are approved, and the municipal clerk is also authorized to issue the raffle licenses. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas the Department of Public Works announces there will be a free 2-hour metered parking from December 11, 2017 through December 25, 2017. And whereas the suspension of metered parking during the holidays is a Nutley tradition to promote our business district and support local merchants. And whereas the free 2-hour parking will allow ample time for residents to take the opportunity to leisurely walk and shop Nutley first, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey. I wish you a happy and healthy holiday season. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Township of Nutley shall apply for community development grant monies for the year 2018, and whereas the public hearings regarding CDBG program were held on November 6, 2017 and December 4, 2017, at which time applications of grants were accepted. Now therefore be resolved by the Township of Nutley submits the application for funding for 2018 Ernest Street from Essex Street to Harrison Street reconstruction and resurface in the amount of $180,448. Move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners Township of Nutley County of Essex, New Jersey, that in accordance with provision of RS 40A 4-58, the following transfers of appropriation in the 2017 budget be and that he hereby authorizes and approves from a mayor's salary and wages $9,000 to a celebration of public events, recycling salary and wage $35,000 to street lighting $35,000 for a grand total of $44,000. Move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. That concludes the business portion of our meeting. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 5 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board shall determine that the interests of the quorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody like to address the Board of Commissioners this evening? Seeing none? Motion to close. Oh,
We're going into executive, right?
oh.
Right? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, all of you. My name is Tammy Rossi. I reside at 123 Colonial Terrace. As you can see in the audience this evening, there are people from different facets of town, and there's an elephant in the room that I feel is so important to address. With the upcoming election on the $70 million referendum, there are many concerned citizens in town, and I do feel for the parents of young children who are concerned about the quality of education their children will receive. I also understand the predicament our superintendent is in because she's trying to push forward some additions on the schools to accommodate the needs of the growing population in town. What I have a concern over is and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not see a coming together and working between the commissioners and the Board of Education to accommodate the taxpayers of this town. It seems like in the time that I've been here, I voted yes on 3 referendums. And I was told every single time, invest in your schools, you're investing in your home value. My home value has not gone up considerably since I've been here. And it hasn't been because of the schools, because the school rankings haven't improved. Is that fair to say? I mean, is anybody going to refute that? So what is the real issue we're facing? Is the issue that we're really facing the growing population in town. This is a 3-square-mile town. According to the U.S. Census.gov website, by definition, an urban neighborhood has a population density of 1,000 people per square mile. We're over 9,000. This is an urban town. It's not even a suburb. A lot of people in town seem to think it is. It's not. And with the continued approval of all these apartments, approval of converting single-family homes into multi-family dwellings, that's not only putting pressure on our schools, it's putting additional pressure on the congestion in town, on our resources, our water, our sewer, our garbage collection. Is anybody paying attention to all of these additional challenges that are facing the taxpayer? So I understand your situation, you're trying to create ratables, but at the same time, you're trying to do, and these bond referendums we have with the Davis building and the Ciccolini bond next year, we're losing $4 million of transition aid from the state. We are facing a lot. That's coming from your side. The BOA is putting more on our plate with this other referendum. So it's like a big corporation. You guys have your agenda, they have theirs, but we're feeling it. And I'm here today just to voice my opinion, because believe me, even though the townspeople aren't showing up at their meeting, at these meetings, they're talking. People are struggling in town, and I think you need to be made aware of it. This is a great town, and we elected you all to your positions in good faith, that you will do the best to your abilities to make this a great quality town. It's quality over quantity. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rossi. Anybody else like to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Lisa Lento. I live at 70 Newman Avenue in Nutley. I'm a homeowner, also a business owner in Nutley. And tonight I came home to this 5 reasons to vote no on the referendum. So this was left at my door by a concerned citizen, or maybe a group of concerned citizens. And it references no more transitional aid, the school rankings not having gone up, residential on-3 and new apartments, tax increases, and the anticipated 2021 revaluation. So I know this was prepared by a citizen or a group of citizens, and some of these issues are seemingly unrelated how they're presented to the citizens of Nutley. The school board referendum is being presented in its very own election that costs $10,000 to administer, from what I understand. Maybe it's $50,000. Anyway, there's a cost involved with having a separate election versus having had a referendum vote be in the very election that was held just a month ago here in Nutley. The gubernatorial election, which I believe was probably mostly paid for by the state. So from a consumer's perspective and a citizen's perspective, these issues all blend together because they impact the taxpayers. Yet, from what I understand, reading minutes of the meetings, I've actually never been to one of these meetings. I've never been to a planning board meeting, but I look at minutes. I've never been to a zoning board meeting, but I look at minutes. And I haven't been to a school board meeting, but I look at minutes. And from what I can tell, none of these meetings ever sort of blend. You're all here doing what you've been elected to do, and some of you actually serve on the planning board and the zoning board. But there doesn't seem to be a blended approach to any of these issues. We have school board members here tonight. I don't believe there's been a blended meeting addressing a $70 million referendum ever with this committee. And please correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Okay, so I'm wrong. So there's been a blended meeting. And I don't know if it's been a public meeting, so thank you. I don't know if that takes my time when you answer, but I'm
I
at
won't take up your
2:40.
time, but
Thank
over the
you.
years, over the last year, there have been several meetings in executive because of the contractual nature of the issues back and forth, where the Board of Commissioners have met with the board, certain Board of Education members, not a full board because they would have to notice the meeting, where they had their committee here regarding this particular referendum. So there have been meetings, you should be aware of that. They are in the minutes, you should see them in the minutes. And I just wanted to correct the record on that.
No, I appreciate that. And some of them you said are in executive because of sensitive nature. As far as I can tell, the proposed budgets that I've seen for the $70 million referendum, they're not about salaries. They're not about employment. They're things like $7 million in HVAC for one building alone. There are HVAC budgets that are seemingly through the roof for all of these buildings, which I believe will hopefully correct problems that have been in existence for years. But I thought that some of the other referendums that involved construction included correcting HVAC problems in some of the buildings. But that doesn't ever seem to happen. So as a homeowner who invests in her home regularly, anybody is welcome to check the tax records. I filed for a number of permits, paid for those permits, paid for the construction to be completed, closed out the permits in a timely basis, and also have accepted the tax increases that go with those. I understand what's involved in investing in your property, and I understand that it costs money. But it's odd that what's been presented to us, and actually the numbers were presented publicly fairly late in the game in terms of the individual breakdown. I understand that was done by the Board of Education, but it's odd that when I look for evidence of what all of your positions are, I've only been able to find evidence of a few statements that are sort of not really for and not really against. There's sort of been a reference to, well, you know, we have to address overcrowding, so the school board's making their best effort. But what I haven't seen is reference to what's going to happen at On3. They advertise live, work, and learn. I drive by the sign every day. They are planning to have people live at that property. What's that going to do for our taxes? For or against? What's it going to do for our schools? For or against? It's an over 55 community. Great. I believe over 55 rules typically prohibit students from living there. But it's been well over a year since the last announced, I guess we'll say, public meeting about On3 and what might happen. So my time would be up, however, I get back 30 seconds. So I'm concerned that none of you really have a response to anything I'm saying, other than thank you to the Township Attorney, Mr. Genetempo, about the meetings. There doesn't seem to be any combined response about a $70 million referendum and what it means to the taxpayers and what's coming down the pike in terms of housing.
Well, I'm going to address just a couple things you said. One, On3, we're in ongoing talks with PRISM and don't have a final plan on what's going to be on that property, so there's no way of answering that question at this time. And two, I can guarantee you that we work together with the Board of Education on multiple issues, and that is ongoing all the time. And I think as far as the referendum's concerned, the Board of Education has done their due diligence in getting us to this point, and now it's up to the taxpayers to make a decision. And I think that's where we're at.
Okay, so I appreciate that response. I will say then that the taxpayers are being asked to make a decision not knowing what's coming at On3 in terms of residential units.
We don't have that answer right now.
Okay.
May I interrupt? you
Sure.
for 1 second? Just so you know, I mean, the mayor, with the mayors, we've been meeting literally on a weekly basis with either PRISM or their planners or their attorneys. We have a weekly phone call. And one of the main issues that we discuss is if there's going to be residential, and we're not even sure there is, we want to make sure that it's not the kind of residential that's going to affect the school system. So that's the number one priority, if I may say, for the board members in terms of that negotiation, and it's a negotiation. And right now, don't forget, that property is 4 buildings that have existed for a long time. The developer's main goal right now is to fill those buildings with tenants so that this site becomes active again, and also to start to pay ratables back to the township that we've lost. And that's a priority of the commissioners, too, to recover some of that lost revenue. So right now, there is no exact plan for what kind of residential, if there's going to be residential. So we're in the middle of that negotiation. But I can tell you, having been at every single meeting, and the commissioners can't go to every meeting because they can only go 2 at a time because of the rules, that is a priority of the commissioners. If there's going to be residential, there will be the type of residential that will not affect the school system. So, if nothing else, I hope you can understand that this is a foremost important criteria for the commissioners, and they are adamant about it. So, I hope you understand. I know there's a lot of rumors going around town, and the commissioners will try to address them individually, but that's a fact. And, you know, we hope to, I think the commissioners hope to have this development be a shining example of the future. There's a lot of exciting things that we think are going to come there. So clearly they are cognizant of that issue and the crowding at the schools. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
And I appreciate that. And I think the challenge for any of us is we're being asked to vote on a bond referendum when this plan from PRISM could be announced on December 15th.
No, and I appreciate
And we
that.
don't know.
That's obviously a concern that's reasonable. That's not my point. You're exactly being reasonable. But I'm telling you right now, there's going to be no announcement by PRISM after the vote that they're going to put X number of things that's going to affect the school system. The commissioners are working extra hard to avoid any of that, and that's not going to happen even for a while. Like I said, the priorities, there's only one building that's half full. The medical school is coming next year. The other two buildings are in play. There's potential tenants. That's been the priority because they're existing assets. And the rest of the site, of which there's not much more on our side, is going to be developed, and the commissioners have been very careful about what they're going to let be built. They have the power of the zoning there. So you can be assured that that's not an issue they're going to give up on. So it's not going to be like the election and then an announcement. Nothing like that is absolutely on board.
Okay, well, I appreciate the response. Again, as the township's attorney, I understand you are a paid employee and you are representing the entire commission.
Yes.
And I appreciate your response.
Thank you.
I like to add something, if I may. It goes back to, I think it was 2013, when Roach called us and told us that they were leaving. It was funny because I was just at a dinner and I talked to Dr. Jeff Boskamp, is his name, Alan?
Yes.
Right? And he brought me over to a table with the dean and all that stuff. And I don't know if you overheard him, Mayor, but he said that, we are very fortunate, and if it wasn't for this Board of Commissioners and myself at the time, that there was a good chance there might have been a fence around that Roach property. So I just want you to know that we did work very diligent on that project, and I really think that we're way ahead of schedule, because at the time, there wasn't any big push for office space in northern New Jersey. I mean, a lot of people were working out of their homes and all that stuff. So I owe a lot of credit to the board and to Seton Hall and Hackensack for really getting this moving, because when we first got noticed, the resolve, I think Commissioner Tucci, you were there with me, was they were talking about like a 20-year fix, that we were 20 years out from fixing that problem. So I understand your question as far as the timing of the referendum, and there are some unknowns there about transitional aid and what's the rest of the site. But I just want you to know my response is that we're an extension of the people. And I remember one time when I wasn't involved politically at all, and there was something with, I don't know if it was a referendum, but Mayor Scarpelli's dad actually said, it's time to leave it up to the people. You have that right to vote which way that you want to vote. And, we have the right as individuals to vote, how we're going to vote, and the privacy behind the curtain. And myself, I've voiced my opinion about the referendum. I think the need is explicitly there. I know the timing is, with a lot of unknowns, is not the greatest, not knowing what the future is going to hold. But I do know that, we need a good school system for our children of this town. And I think that does tie into property values. And I'm a little on the fence at this point of which way I'm going to vote. But I hope that answers some of your questions.
And I appreciate that. And when you say the timing of the vote, I'm not just referencing the potential on-3 development. I mean, having a separate referendum vote, and again, I believe it is $50,000 expense. I think it's unconscionable to ask the citizens of Nutley to shoulder an additional $50,000 expense for an election 5 weeks after an election.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
now that the door's been opened, I'm going to walk through it. I articulated last week, and I'll articulate again, that I am opposed to a referendum. I understand. I was a school board member. I've been all over this country. I understand the pressures that school systems are under. I'm one of those people, like everyone in this room, who wants to give the best we could for our children. But as I articulated before, I am very, very concerned, deeply concerned about the tax impact that this is going to have on all of us, including myself and every commissioner up here. Very concerned. I'm concerned about those senior citizens who have been telling me they're going to move. They're going to end up in nursing homes. They're going to move. This is not a scare tactic. This is real life. I mean, we're talking about the future of citizens who have struggled and continue to struggle. Now, saying that, I'm not opposed to the concept. I know there's a need, but timing is very bad. I am very concerned that the election is on December 15th. I believe there was a legitimate reason for that, so I'm not going to often criticize that. I'm concerned about it because It's suppressing the vote. It really is. It's in the middle of Christmas season. And I'm not blaming the school board for that. They probably have a darn good reason. Maybe they had a time limit or whatever. But seeing what I see out there, and this board, and Commissioner Tucci, you've talked so often about affordability. You have. We just can't afford it. We just can't afford it now. I want to see, as someone said together, us come together, and we have. Believe me, we have. We've had a lot of meetings. But I'm looking for Plan B, I guess, and Plan C. There's always a way to get there, but I don't think now is the time. I really don't believe now is the time, in view of the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with Roach. We don't know. We know we have an idea, and all of us up here have worked diligently to ensure, as the council said, that the housing situation, if it was up to us, there wouldn't be any housing there. But we're facing some court mandates with affordable housing. We're facing a lot of challenges that we're trying to overcome. But my point is this, all right? You've heard it from me, my position. I'm opposed to it purely based on the fact that it's just unaffordable for people right now. And as Commissioner Petrarca said, it's up to the taxpayers. So if you hear any rumors out there about Commissioner Steve Rogers saying this or saying that, you heard it from me. And let me add this, and this is very, very important. I know every school board member. I know them personally. I'm sure that they've lost a lot of sleep over this, too. They're probably, no doubt, that they're breaking their back and racking their brains out, trying to figure a way to do what's best for our children. I get it. I understand that. And I think we're all trying to figure out, trying to do what's best for the community. But in my view right now, I just wish we could all take a step back and figure out first what's coming at Hoppe and Roach, figure out what kind of transitional aid we're getting, figure out, in other words, we shed some light, okay? I wish somebody up there could shed some light on the future. And once we have those facts in play, then we move forward, okay? Thank you.
Anybody else like to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Can I just ask one more question?
Restate.
Rossi, 20 Colonial Terrace. So that was a great point. Why don't we take a step back? Is it possible to just stop approving apartment buildings? Stop approving additional residences that will burden the community even more? Just 5 years, so we can catch up. We can see what happens with On3. We can assess what happens in our schools and catch up with our debt situation. Is that something maybe we could consider?
My understanding, Ms. Rossi, and Mr. Genetempo can correct me if I'm wrong, a moratorium on building is not legal.
That's correct. Any developer has the right to file an application for a development, and there are certain criteria that each of the boards has to approve and has to meet, the application has to meet. So it's not so easy to do that. Second thing is, the data that you're referring to regarding what's coming out of the apartments, I don't think is 100% correct. The school board has that data. Yes, Cambridge Heights development did produce a lot, but that's a different kind of development than the things that are going up. I'm not saying there's no children. The demographer that presented to the commissioners didn't present that kind of data. It presented data that the children are coming from the homes, the single-family homes, that are turning over more quickly than they were in the past. So, and I know you live right on the next block from me, so, when people move out, they get older, they move out, people move in with families, and that has been what has created a big part of this problem. So, and most of the apartments that have been going in are one-bedroom apartments. So, statistically, and by all studies, they're not creating a lot of children, nor are they, from my understanding, in reality. So, and I understand your point, and it is a point raised by a lot of people, but you cannot have a moratorium on construction. You have COA, as Commissioner said, COA obligations coming to the town that haven't been resolved. We're facing that issue very soon, and we're trying to figure out a way to resolve it to be in compliance with the law. So it's not a simple proposition. I know you know that, but there are a lot of moving parts in every one of these solutions, and we're trying to balance. When I say we, I mean me as council, but as the commissioners are trying to balance how you affect all these situations. in a positive way and follow the law. So although everybody thinks that it would be a great idea to freeze all the construction, it's just not realistic. And it creates ratables that, in fact, have made up for the loss of ratables at Hoffman La Roche. I know Commissioner Evans knows the numbers 10 times better than I do, but it has offset the revenue loss from everything at Hoffman La Roche. So if it wasn't for a lot of these projects, and I'm not saying I'm for or against them, we would really be in a deep hole relative to the ratables. So, and I understand you said that already about getting ratables, but there's a lot that goes on into all of this, and I hope everybody understands that.
I'm just thinking in terms of global impact on the town as a whole, and the community as a whole, beyond the schools, the congestion, the additional pressure on our services in town, as I mentioned, the sewer, the water, the garbage collection, other services in town, that the occupants of these apartments would have. And I just wonder if that is a key point that could be used when dealing with the state's requirements. This is a very small geographic area.
Right.
You can only handle so much.
Right, but understand that when anybody makes an application before the planning board or the zoning board, those issues have to be addressed by professionals. And they have to present to the board their opinions on traffic and water and sewage and what the effects are going to be on the community. So that all has to be taken into consideration, and it's part of the criteria that those boards determine or use to determine whether they're going to grant an approval or at what level they're going to grant an approval, another how many units and so forth. So it is part of the overall evaluation. It's not just everybody just dismisses it and says, well, we don't care what the impact's going to be. There are impacts, and they have to be addressed in those hearings. So those hearings are boring sometimes, and they're, you don't want to sit through them because they put you to sleep. But the proofs, the evidence are usually produced, or the board won't grant the application. So, even the fire department has to weigh in on all these, the fire department, the police department have to give opinions about the feasibility of the actual project. So all those things are all factored in, at least, to the best that they can be. So it's a very complex problem, and I know that everyone is aware of that. The COA issue is a major issue that we have to deal with.
And the COA could not just be inclusive of 55 and over or senior
No,
housing?
because you don't get the kind of credits from that you get from either apartments or homes or other types of residential. Like, for example, assisted living or nursing homes. You get credits for certain beds, but not for the whole units. So it's a calculation that the commissioners are doing now with an expert. We have our own counsel on it, an expert in COA, and we're in litigation on that right now. So, and that's a complicated issue that's going to affect the entire town, not just what happens at the Roach site. So I'm more than happy to talk offline with anyone that has a question about it, but the commissioners they're juggling all these balls in the air to make sure none of them fall to the ground. That's really what's really happening.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Russell. Can I have a motion to close the public comment portion of the meeting? We'll come back to the commissioners for comments.
Fine.
Motion?
Commissioner Rogers? Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Commissioners?
Yes. Tammy, I don't, maybe it's the air or the water on Colonial Terrace, because we are neighbors. I couldn't agree with you more as far as the apartments are concerned and the impact that they will have globally on this town, not only on the school system, but on services, and more importantly, Nutley is the way it is because of what I call deep roots, all right? We have generations of families that live here. All right, our children go off to school if that's what they choose to do, and then they come back and then they raise their families. I think for now we have plenty of apartments. You need a balance, all right, because populations change. You have, the millennials that are looking for smaller apartments, and we want to keep those here and our people here and attract others to the town. But I couldn't agree with you more on the apartments. I would not be in favor of building any more apartments right now. But understand that the planning board and the zoning board are quasi-judicial boards, all right? So we really have no influence on them. I know the mayor, and he has a designee that sits on some of the boards, but ultimately it's the majority of the board that would vote on that. To this young lady here, who was saying, do you believe that there may be a disconnect? There is not a disconnect between the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education. We speak to them probably more than either of us want to. All right. As far as the referendum is concerned, we're not here to direct this referendum. We all have our own opinions. As a father who had 4 children go through this Nutley school system, each of them have done very well, all right, and a grandfather who has 7 out of 10 grandchildren who will either are attending or will be attending the schools, of course we want the schools to be the very best they can. However, sometimes, all right, you don't have planning that's exactly the way it should have been. That created some of the situations that we're in now. We need improvements, we need space, we need to expand. The question becomes, all right, and I think we've all articulated this at the last meeting when we were questioned. No one's questioning the need, all right, that the Board of Education and the administration has articulated, and I think they've done an outstanding job in doing that. It's a question of affordability, as Commissioner Rogers said, and it's been echoed all the way around. It's a question of timing, but I think everyone needs to search their own souls to see what it is that is affordable, because it's not just the referendum, all right? You also have to include what has been the traditional increases, all right, to see what that total impact is. And then you need to weigh both sides to see what makes sense, all right? And again, we're not here to direct anyone one way or the other for the referendum. Is it necessary? Are the improvements necessary? Absolutely. Is the timing correct? I think that's a personal decision that everyone needs to make. But our job here, all right, is to maximize the ratables at Hoffman LaRoche, and I'm sure Commissioner Evans is going to follow up on this, all right, and to do the very best we can to make this town attractive, not only for the folks that are here, but for future generations to come back here. So Nutley remains the premier community that it is, and we don't become like, unfortunately, some of our surrounding towns who aren't in as good a shape as we're in. So if you want to know where we stand on anything, go back and read the minutes from the last meeting. I think we've articulated them very well.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes, just a few points. I'll wait for the siren. Thank you. Several points have been raised about the Hoffman LaRoche site, some of the development in town, and some of the pressures that we face. And I've shared this before. It's a very complex financial structure. We didn't lose $4 million worth of transitional aid. We lost $1 million on a net basis for 2017. As it relates to the transitional aid, we still have transitional aid for next year that we will work to get adopted. I'm already in negotiations, and the Board of Commissioners, obviously through all their contacts, are in negotiations to make sure that we do everything we can to get our transitional aid reinstated. In part, the reason for that and the justification around it is that in order to enable the Hoffman LaRoche site to actually progress at a more accelerated pace, is that we've established a medical school on the site, a private medical school, first in the state, and it's a state issue. And we've been very clear about the fact that the challenges that Nutley faces with Hoffman LaRoche closure and its transition is not a local issue. It's a state issue. And that the state needs to be continued to be there to support us, and they have been. We received, including this year, some $16 million worth of aid over the last few years to help soften the challenge. The reason why I say that is at the time that Roche closed, the rateable attached to the piece that did close was $9.8 million. Today, that same property is producing $4.2 million in tax revenue. Without the transitional aid, we would have a tremendous burden on this town that our concern has been is to avoid any collapse of the town as a result of this undue pressure. So the state has been very appreciative of our situation and has been helpful. And with the existing administration, we're negotiating, and with the new administration, we're already at the table negotiating with them to make them aware so that we preserve the transitional aid. What's very clear to me is that in transition, the Hop on the Row site will never produce the revenue that it used to produce. It's a different use. It was a single owner campus site. It's now a multi-tenanted site. So the highest and best use from an assessing standpoint has changed. And so the challenge we have is that we have some existing buildings that are going to be tenant occupied, in some cases multi-tenant occupied, and then we have some open space that will need to be addressed. And one of the things that is obviously under great consideration is actually establishing a continuing care center on a piece of the property for the benefit of the town. So in part, what that did is that led us to evaluate the need to add ratables in a very careful way. And we've been challenged by that, but to date, in order to help soften the burden with Roche, which has a permanent revenue loss, the new apartment structure is actually adding $2.2 million worth of new tax revenue every year. So it's a new taxpayer that's actually paying for a tax that otherwise the existing tax base would have to absorb. And that's been part of our challenge, is evaluating, one, we need the ratable, but how far do we go? The other thing is I think there's been a lot of generalization about what apartments actually mean. What's the burden on services? What does it mean to the schools? And there hasn't been a very specific conversation about what in reality that means. So for example, Cambridge Heights in 1995 was forecasted that when it was built would add 128 students to the school system. Right? It's a 20-year study. We're now up, I think, over 150. But on a 20-year study, it wasn't too bad in terms of what it was going to project. At the time, we didn't have full-day kindergarten. We didn't have the special needs requirements that we face today. So some of the burden and the impact of that at the time was not seen as in effect, excessively stressive to the school system because the factors at the time were very different than those that we face today. We have this ongoing challenge as well, is that, and this is where Commissioner Tucci started to allude to, as a Board of Commissioners, we're very sensitive to what the tax burden is on the taxpayer and what the taxpayer can absorb. We are continuing to not only fight for transitional aid, but additional aid from the state, because that's, I think part of the formula to address our needs. The other part of the formula is that we have been in ongoing discussions about how we're going to adjust and reduce our budget for next year. You'll be hearing more about that as we go on, but the commissioners have been in very active conversations about how much of our budget can be reduced, and can we possibly achieve a $3 million reduction in our budget to actually offset a tax increase for next year, which is extraordinary to do that, given the size. If you think about your tax bill, all 5 departments, all the services that come from the township represent 35% of your property tax bill. So all of the municipal services are basically 35 cents on the dollar. 17 cents on the dollar goes to the county for the privilege of being part of Essex County, for the services that they provide, and the balance is the school. Right? And in those active negotiations, we've been very clear that not only are we faced with the challenge of reducing our budget, the school board has to step up and reduce their budget. We've also gone to the library and have said, hey, you've got to adjust your budget. Because of the financial times that we're in, to see what we can absorb. Because the one thing that we're very sensitive to is that it just can't be the same formula that keeps adding cost to the system. Right? That's just an issue of failure. The other challenge is that cutting budgets is a death of 1,000 cuts, right? Because there are certain things that you need to do to preserve the health, welfare, and safety of the community. Public safety services are very expensive today, but they're necessary. So there's only going to be a certain point that we can go before we jeopardize what is the integrity of Nutley. The other thing that we've been talking about a great deal is with the on-three situation, the need to, in effect, establish a very powerful brand associated with Nutley for who we are as a community and make sure that we remain vibrant and attractive to future generations. Because one of this, and it's been mentioned as well, is that one of the greater issues that we face as a community is the fact that our single-family homes are turning over. There's a large percentage of homes that are empty nesters, and they're going to turn, and when they turn, those are going to add children to the school system. And when they add children to the school system, it's not going to be a one-bedroom apartment that may have one child or no children. Those are multi-bedroom houses, and those are going to be families that are going to be moving in there. So the challenge that the school board faces is the future growth, not just from apartments, but more importantly, from the actual natural churn of our houses. And it's impossible for us to put a sign on a house that says this house is for sale, but no children, right? So that is a natural consequence of our township. So what I wanted to basically share was somebody mentioned $4 million of aid. I wanted to correct that. It's actually $1 million. We are very much involved with the state to reinstate our aid and preserve our situation, hopefully improve it. We've been very active in preparing ourselves for 2018. Now we've been in those meetings for a while to do that. And we've encouraged the school board to do exactly the same thing because it can't be just one-sided given the fact that roughly 50% of the tax bill is the school board. So if we're going to look to how do we address the needs of our school system, it can't be additive. There's got to be a way to specifically identify how we're going to do our best to at least either absorb it in total or absorb it in part, but recognize that we need to do a better job of communicating how we're going to deal with the financial side of this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners?
I see many people every day, many people. And, I think it depends on who you talk to, what their priorities are. I have a new couple that just moved into my neighborhood. They came by to patronize the store. I think the father's a teacher in Hoboken, New Jersey City, a baseball coach. And he was just at one of the events, I don't know what event it was, and he comes into the store and he says to me, I was just at this event, great event, this and that. I said, you know what, the town's really a great town. I'm glad you're here. They moved from Jersey City or Hoboken and they're raising a family. And I said, I know the taxes are high, but we really have a great town. Know what he said to me? He goes, for everything I get here, I don't mind paying the taxes. Then I see other people who are struggling. And they're like, I can't go for one more penny if this referendum passes, if these taxes continue on the track they're going, I'm going to have to move out. I'm not going to have a choice. So, there's a few things, a few common factors. Like I said, I'm on the fence myself. Then, the pro side that makes me want to vote for the referendum. I have 3 sons that went through this, that 2 went through the school system. I still have a 4th grader in town. And you know what? My taxes are over $20,000 and nobody bitches and moans more than me, trust me. You guys agree on that, right? But with that being said, how much is it to educate a kid? Is it close to $15,000 in Nutley now? Am I close? So if I have 3 kids in the school system, I'm costing the township of Nutley $45,000. If I'm paying $20,000, really, what am I complaining about? And I know some of you that my kids went to school with, so if you start doing the math, you know what, I think we're getting a pretty good deal from the town, from the Board of Ed, because, like I said, for a while I was costing this town $45,000. As far as the school ratings are concerned, that argument, I don't really buy into that, because when I go over the criteria of what those ratings are, as far as it goes by the cafeteria, your gym classes, your buildings, it's not all academic, and that's what I'm concerned about. So even when my kids were going through school here in Nutley, I worked hard with them. We come from a pro-education family. My one son's in Pace University Law School right now. He went through these schools that are not so great as far as people say. He did wonderful. I have my other son who got in, I know you know him, Tammy. I have my other son at Seton Hall University who got an academic scholarship there. Partial, I have to pay, of course, like everybody else, which hurts. But again, you know, I keep hearing these schools aren't so great. I don't know, my kids seem to excel here, but we were on them. I have a fourth grader that was having problems with reading. I invested in him, met with the school leaders, Board of Education. I hired a tutor for him. So I think that we could fill our heads with a lot of excuses why, you know, my kid's not doing so well, my kid's doing good, all that stuff. I think it's, as parents, it's our responsibility to put them in the best places and make sure that they do well, you know, and invest in that. You know, my kids played baseball with your kids, right? You know, it seems like everybody in Nutley has money for batting lessons and pitching coaches and all that stuff, but you know, I focused on education. Unfortunately, my kids didn't make the Yankees. But with all that being said, you know, it really is a tough decision to make, but I just want people to realize, you know, that you get you know, and this is something I discussed with Commissioner Evans in length, you know, it's the value that we should be looking for in Nutley. Yeah, our taxes are high, but somebody in my store today lives in Toms River. They pick up the garbage once every 2 weeks, I think. They're there. How many times do we pick up the garbage in Nutley, Commissioner?
3 plus welcome.
Twice. And you could put anything out there. So, you know, we've been doing a lot of talks, you know, and a lot of tough decisions up here. And, you know, what we have to be considerate of is, you know, you start stripping out these services. And I laid off cops and firemen in 2008 when I first got elected. And it wasn't easy having 300 people in this room petitioning against me, but I believed in what I was doing was the right thing at the time, and I went through with it. And my kids got pulled over on Franklin Avenue after that. So these are tough jobs up here. They're tough seats to fill. You know, we do our best. It's never a good time when you're asking people for money, but I could say, you know, sitting up here for the last 10 years, I've always tried to strike that balance where, you know, people that are struggling, try to accommodate them. People that have the money, that it doesn't matter, you know, try to meet somewhere in the middle, because whatever you do, I'm sure all of us in this room know that you can't make all the people, you know, happy all the time. But I think with this referendum, and like Steve did, I do want to thank the board members and Dr. Glazier. You know what? I know their hearts are in the right places. I know that you've worked so hard. I think it was Rotangoro that was in here one night, and I'll never forget what she said, and I don't even know what the issue was about. It might have been an apartment, but she said, all the debate is good. If you're on the left side, if you're on the right side, isn't it nice that you could come here and debate the situation? And then when you go to vote, you vote what's in your heart. So again, I've been trying to strike that balance for 10 years here. I hope I have answered some of your questions. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd just like to add one more thing that my colleagues brought to mind. First of all, Commissioner Tucci, you've been I listen to you. I hear a lot of things you say because of your experience, and you've consistently used the word character of the community. I walked out of here and I leaned over to the mayor. You didn't hear this, so I'm going to tell you what I said to him. I said, you know what, Mayor, are we losing Mayberry? And he looked at me and he said, I hope not. And we look at Nutley as the Mayberry that Commissioner Tucci has quite often talked about regarding the character of our community. I used to ride around town here with Chief John Holland, and every day we'd ride, and we'd look at Nutley, and then we realized what was happening around us, and we always asked the question, how did this happen to these communities throughout the state of New Jersey and around the country where property taxes are going down, the school systems are failing, taxes are going up, people are seeing their governments, they don't trust government anymore, and on and on and on. And here I am in the year 2017, living and being somebody that's going to have to help answer that question for us. And you know, Commissioner Petracco, you know, you talked about partly about that, about where do we go and what do we do. And I'd say the only failure that I could see is that we have so many great things in town, we haven't marketed it. We haven't marketed it. Best finance guy in the world sitting right there, folks. You know his background. This Parks Department fellow here, I've been all over this country. I have not seen any recreational programs that match what's happening in Nutley. None. The mayor, the roots, man, are so far down the pride and the integrity and the honor that you've given to this township and your family over the years. And then we got my buddy here to the left, Al Petracco. Came on board, pretty tough times, wasn't it? But he shaped up a police department that still allows your children to go to school walking without the fear of being shot, mugged. There are no gangs in town. We have our problems, we do. But I remember a woman from Newark said to me years ago, I said to her, you know what? And when we had our junior police academy in Nutley, I snuck something in, guys. I had the aunt of a young nephew from Newark come, and she had her, I said, bring your nephew. He could come and join. And I said to her, if there's anything I could give you for Christmas, what would you want? And she said to me, look, the best gift you could give me is that I could wake up in the morning without the fear of Joseph, was the kid's name, being shot on the way to school. And that said something to me. It said something to me that we have so much richness in this town. Our history is so deep. So together, we could make things happen. And as I said, and Tammy, you said it also, but man, I wish we could take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, you know what, let's come together and let's figure a way, because there is a way. But my point is this. The struggle we have is that decisions we make could very well change the character of this town, and we're never going to get it back. We're being very, very careful on the decisions we make, and I know the members of that school board are doing the same thing. But thank you for talking about democracy. Other towns, they failed and they collapsed because people didn't care. They care. The young lady that first came up, you're right, they're not people here, but they care. And you're here as their voice. And I just want you to know that we're listening. And thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to address some of the issues that were brought up in some of the comments tonight. How does the Board of Education and the commissioners, do they work together? Well, when we got cut our transitional aid, we all sat down in a room and we decided how we were going to make up that difference. And we were able to make it up, which was very difficult when we learned in September to make up the amount of money that we were cut. But together, working together, we resolved that issue. The apartments and overbuilding. When this board was faced with what we thought was overdensity on the East Center Street property, those properties in that corridor, we came together and we changed the zone, so we put a halt to the building that was going on there because we thought it was time to pause and see what, make sure that we weren't overbuilding there. And it seemed like we were. And we haven't changed that zone back. So that's the things we've done. We can argue about some of the other apartments that were built and that they're too dense or too high, but when you look at the properties that 95% of them have replaced, those were unproductive properties. They were falling apart. Take a look what was on Passaic and Kingsland. Take a look what was on Franklin Avenue, that old warehouse. Take a look at that old dilapidated 5-bedroom apartment that's been replaced. All improvements. People are investing money in our community. So yes, do apartments add some children to the school system? They do. But that's not the driving force of what's going on and why the schools are overcrowded. If you listen to the Board of Education's presentations, all-day kindergarten was a driving force. Special education, state mandates, the shrinking classroom, as they call it. And as Mr. Genetempo said, the turnover of one-family homes. We have people moving into this community. So as much as we complain that there's people that want to move out because the taxes are too high, we're desirous to a lot of people. And there's people willing to pay good money for a home, and the home values are starting to rise, and people willing to pay the taxes. So there are people willing to move into this town. There are people willing to invest in this town. It's a good town. And as far as Roche is concerned, let me tell you, this board, as the commissioners have said, we're working hard because we're very cognizant that the decisions that we make over the next 6 months to a year are going to affect this town for the next century. And that's heady stuff. And it's weight bearing on us. It really does weigh on our minds. How are we going to resolve that? And the decisions that we make, where is this town going to be 20 years from now, 30 years from now? And I have children that have homes here, just as Commissioner Tucci said. We worry about that. And we worry about how they're going to pay the taxes and how we're going to pay the taxes. You know, so we're all in this together, whether it's the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Education, and I can guarantee you we're working together for the betterment of this community today and in the future. So I appreciate your comments tonight. As Commissioner Petracco and Commissioner Rogers says, that's what democracy is all about. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to go back into executive session.
Why do you always look at me?
Unfortunately, Mr. Ferraro, the public portion has been closed. All right? That was a while ago. About a half hour now. After the meeting. After the meeting. After the meeting.
You always look at me. All right, make a motion that we close the meeting and go into executive for personnel contracts.
Second.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits the exclusion of public from meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas the public body is of the opinion that such circumstances exist. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey desires to proceed to close executive session. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley move into closed executive session to discuss personnel. Alan, personnel? And contracts? And contract negotiations. Be it further resolved that the time when such discussion may be disclosed to the public shall be when and as such disclosure may be made without adversely affecting the Township of Nutley, pending and/or anticipated legal, personnel, contractual matters, and other matters within the exceptions provided for by statute. Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. We will be coming back into public portion, but just to close the meeting, there'll be no action taken. Good night, everybody.
The time is 9:04.